This is Sportswrap Overtime. Specifically, it's a Sportswrap Overtime special, and we are brought to you by HII, built in America for America. We do these twice a month. We call them specials. Try to bring on some guests or talk about sort of some different subjects on our mind any given week. And man, we got a great person joining us today to talk about his football team. You see the lower. Let's bring him in, Jeff. Paul Crowley, the head coach of the CNU Captains. Coach, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
Doing good. Enjoying the bye week, getting ready to find out who our opponent is tomorrow, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, bye week. This team is 10-0. CNU is 10-0, rolling along in the NJAC. And, man, Brian, you've been to some games. You've seen this team a couple times. Coach, how's it feel, first of all? How did getting through that season 10-0 unblemished? I mean, what is that feeling?
Yeah, it gave me probably a couple of gray hairs. A lot of the games we had were close games, starting with Susquehanna, week 3, which was a big win for us. And then the Salisbury, Montclair, Roan games, one of those being overtime, all being one-score games. Our kids have really fought and won some close football games. So, if you'd have told me before the season if I expected to go 10-0, I thought we could win week in and week out, but I've just been so impressed with how they have played over the course of the season.
Yeah, a big congratulations to Coach Crowley, named the actual conference coaching staff of the year, and you're majorly responsible for that. Congratulations on that honor. And your quarterback, Connor Berry, was named Offensive Player of the Year. So with success comes the accolades. How the guys handling all of that, and congratulations on your honor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, it really does belong to all of our, assistant coaches. When I took over 4 years ago, one of the things I wanted to do was make sure I could find coaches that were going to stay somewhere and build something. And, the core of my coaching staff has been together 4 years now, and that's been instrumental in our success. And then speaking about Connor, yeah, he's about as special a quarterback as you're going to find at our level, and I'm sure he'll be winning a lot more awards. So our guys are excited for, the accolades and those kind of things, but I think more excited to be able to play football again in a week coming up.
Yeah, talk about the intensity that is. I mean, you had the bye week, but the intensity that is, I mean, it's survive in advance, Coach. So it's like do or die, right? How intense is this next week of practice about to be for you?
Yeah, I think that our guys understand going in that any mistake you make could be the last one you make, over the course of the season. So, a little bit of a lull coming off of Salisbury. Then we played 6 days later, so we've had some time off. But I think once we hit the ground running Monday, the guys will understand what's at stake and, the opportunity to play at home in a playoff game for the first time in almost 20 years. So I don't think anybody's taken that lightly. Yeah,
I went to the Montclair State game and the Salisbury game, and I'm looking at some of the results of the games before that. You guys win 69-7, then you guys win 49-0, and then you guys win 52-7, and then with the Montclair and Salisbury back-to-back, your defense shootouts. These games were shootouts, 49-42 and 45-42. I mean, how are you guys able to kind of win the shootout between in those two games?
Yeah, I think, it sounds simplistic, but, it's the first thing we brought up when I took over. But if you want to win football games, you run the ball, stop the run, and win the turnover margin. So Montclair team, we were probably, expected to beat, fairly easily, but they're a good football team. And then, we were down turnover margin in the first half, and it really started to swing once we were able to create some turnovers in the second half there. And then really the same thing with Salisbury. We were down a lot early, and once we created some turnovers on defense, put our offense in those shorter fields, and that's how you win those shootouts is you win the turnover margin.
Yeah, there's a big pick six in that Salisbury game too. That was a great turning point in the game there.
Yeah, Brian came back to the office and just talked about the environment and how cool it was being up there, Coach. I've been up there a few times over the years now. Getting back to your point here, a playoff game at home, 20 years. You don't have to travel. Guys are sleeping in their own beds, I assume. Like, how advantageous is that to you in your group to just get this first one on at home?
Yeah, I think it's a big advantage, and then the added advantage of whoever we end up playing is playing a game tomorrow, so they'll have played back-to-back games and not known who their opponent is for as long. So being able to get it right into it on Monday and be healthy and be fresh, I think is a big advantage. And then you guys talked about Town Bank Stadium, but even when I was getting recruited out of high school 20 years ago, one of the things that really drew me there was, playing in front of 5,000 people. You guys talked about the night game atmosphere, the band. It just feels the way college football is supposed to feel. So to be able to do that in a playoff atmosphere, I think is going to be even more special.
Yeah, Coach, I was unfamiliar with sort of, I don't want to say unfamiliar entirely, but like the D3 level of football was not on my radar when I first got here. And then I did a couple of the CNU games like 4 years ago, and I was like, this is really cool. I was like, it's intimate. The fans are passionate. People are showing up. It's good ball. I was like, it's one of them things, like, I think it gets lost in the ether in this big time world of college football and NIL. But when it comes to this level, what can you say about these guys on your team and these fans that show up to support your team on this level at Division III?
Yeah, I think it sets us, apart from most places. The best teams in Division III, have Division I facilities, have Division I game day atmospheres. It's just the number you put on the end of it, and how much money we can give the kids. But we got a roster full of, some kids that have gone Division I, have seen what it's like to, maybe not get as much playing time as you want and have the opportunity to play close to home and play in front of these atmospheres. And I think, that's something a lot of kids really, really value. Connor was at Appalachian State and, knew it was always going to be the transfer portal deal there, and he could maybe be the 2 at App State or the 3 at App State, or he can come, try to break records at CNU. Same thing with Gunner. Same thing with a lot of our guys. So, I think once they come to that realization that they're playing really, really high caliber football against, some guys that end up playing professionally, it's got everything you want in a college atmosphere.
Love that.
Yeah, good, amazing atmosphere. Do you prefer the day games or do you prefer the 1 o'clock games or do you prefer the night games? I prefer the night games.
I think for fan experience, night games. For coach experience, day games. It's not a whole lot of fun waiting around all day, kind of just watching other teams play and just overthinking things. So the playoffs, you get to play at noon. It's noon kickoffs for everybody. So that's much my preference as the head coach. But the night, the lights, all that stuff, it's pretty special.
And there's a big tailgating scene going on. I know you don't get to see that, and I know you seemed kind of emotional with the senior day situation going on there before the game, honoring all the seniors before the Salisbury game. I mean, what's that rite of passage like when you send the guys off like that?
It's always something you have to be careful about getting too emotional about. I think my first time doing it, I got caught up with that a little bit. So we've scaled it down a little bit. But, with this group, it was even more so special because this was our first full recruiting class of 4 years that we've, gone through the ups and downs with, won that first conference championship with. They're the winningest group in CNU football history now. So, it's a lot of guys you spend a lot of time with and a lot of local guys. Yasir Jeter, our corner from Kings Ford. Devin Norman, our end from Grassfield, Gunnar White, who broke all of our school records running back out of Tallwood. So a lot of guys I'd recruited for a long time. So, once you kind of realize the finality of it, it can hit you a little bit.
You just kind of led me into my next point, Coach. I was going to build out this roster, like the pride you guys take in recruiting 757 and Virginia kids in general. Talk to me about
last year.
Comes together.
Last year, you took pride in the fact that I was talking to you about the roster, and you said literally every player on the team was from Virginia.
That was so crazy. I remember that.
Is that the case this year?
We took a kicker from out of state, so we fudged the stats there.
He's on the injured list, though. I saw on the roster.
Yeah, he is, Jaden. But yeah, no, it was a concerted decision. I grew up on Virginia football. For those that don't know, I went to Lansdowne down there back in the day, and have recruited the state for a long, long time, whether it be here or William and Mary, and know the caliber of football player you can get. So rather than, spin our wheels trying to go out of state, the thought process was more, all right, let's keep these same coaches in the same schools in Virginia and let's find the best talent in the state of Virginia and try to win with those guys. So that's why, it's exciting to take a team full of 99% Virginia kids into the playoffs. And obviously Hampton Roads is, an extremely important part of it. It's where the most guys on our roster come from. And, to this day, I still recruit Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. Most head coaches don't do that anymore, but, that's the importance we place on it and where we know we're going to find a lot of our talent.
Is that a pitching, selling point to some of these guys? And you walk in and you say, hey, man, like keep it in-house, keep it home, and your family can watch you play every weekend 6 times a year, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, especially the South Side, is the perfect distance for college. Is a big reason I came here to play. You're 45 minutes, an hour away. So you're far enough away, you're doing your own thing, but you're close enough that your family can come watch you play. If you want to go watch Sunday NFL games with your family, you can do that. And then you add in the education, you add in the ability to play in meaningful games week 9, 10 of the year in front of these kind of crowds. It's I think an easy selling point and a better selling point probably than some of the Division I, Division II stuff that's not as able to offer you all those different facets of a college experience.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you a little bit here and your career. So you went to Lansdowne High School, correct? In Virginia Beach. Was that during the Percy era?
That was the Percy era. I'll call it the Chris Beatty era.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a really good coach too.
It was. I was going through some old tapes the other day, and I was like, and Damon McDaniel is a receiver for Maury, And I said, hey,
His
Craig,
son,
you remember
his father? Yeah.
David McDaniel? Look at this guy from the Lansdowne team from back then. It's like, that's David McDaniel's
Senior
father.
Yeah.
So did you play football?
Yeah, no, I played. Yeah, okay. I was on those state championship teams with Chris Beatty and all that. I was the starting center for those the 2 years we lost the state championship to Westfield, and then followed it up and beat Robinson in that state championship.
What year did you graduate, Coach?
2005.
2005. Okay, got it. You're 4 years old.
So what did you play basketball too?
No, I wasn't good enough to play on Coach Rob's basketball team. I was a baseball guy, but
he's still the coach. Who his son's?
No, Coach Rob's my guy.
His son's a great player.
You played center in high school, man. It's hard for me to see that. Like, I mean, you're sitting down, but like, what's the measurables here? What are we looking at?
I mean, that's part of my recruiting pitch, and what I sell to the kids was I was on that 14-0 team, state champion. I was an all-state player. I was 6'1", 245, 250, and I wasn't going to get to 310. So, in this recruiting process that I went through 20 years ago, it was maybe you can come Division I and walk on, but I don't know if you're big enough. Division IIs, and they were a long way from home, and didn't probably have the education I wanted. And then I didn't know the first thing about CNU, to be perfectly honest, even an hour up the road. And came and checked out a game, and I was like, okay, I could see myself doing this. I want to keep winning games. I want to keep playing in front of these kind of crowds. And it was a good sell for me back then. So, I think the same allure should be there for, guys 20 years later. Not
looking like 245 nowadays, Coach. You look slim, man. You look slim. That's why I was like, it's hard for me to see.
While I was young, I better do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what was Percy more impressive in football or track?
Football. I mean, the track aspect was impressive in that he barely practiced it, still went out.
That's how it works at that level.
Those teams were loaded, though. Even the basketball teams, Stanley Pringle and Damon and all those guys we had there too. We were blessed with a lot of really, really good football players. And like you said, you kind of start to date yourself now. Like, when Damon's son was at, I think, Western Branch as a freshman, I got a chance to meet him, and I was like, I'm getting old now. We're going to start recruiting some of these guys. So.
As an outsider to Virginia, Brian will tell you this because he'll queue up some of the old videos. Like the Percy Harvin lore is something I find very intriguing for a lot of different reasons. But like, I mean, can you just explain, Coach? Like I've seen podcasts with Urban Meyer and Cam Newton when they talk about it's like they describe him as the most electrifying athlete they've ever seen. Like, is it that way for you? Obviously.
Yeah, it was pretty special. It's the start to full speed he was able to get to. I've been around a lot of good programs now. I've, coached against Tech and UVA and some of those places, and I haven't seen any better. And, even talking to Chris Beatty, who's in the league now and coaching the NFL, our coach at the time, he hasn't seen anybody that's as explosive as he was. It was something to watch. His just overall natural athleticism was you'd have to be pretty special to be better.
Number one player in the country.
What influenced you to get into the coaching game, to get into the grind of this profession?
Honestly, Coach Beatty in high school. He came in. I played under Coach Jackson for 2 years, who's still coaching and does a great job. But Coach Beatty came in, and he was young and not a yeller and a screamer, which is kind of what you think is the cliche of a coach. And that wasn't my personality. So seeing somebody be successful that I thought I could model myself after kind of convinced me I could get into this world. And then was given good advice to find something you love doing, and you won't work a day in your life. And I knew I loved football and couldn't see myself outside of it. So got right into it as a young coach at CNU, and never regretted the decision for a day.
Were you grad assistant?
Yeah, I did tight ends basically my first year as a student coach, and then spent the first 8 or 9 years there as an assistant under Coach Kelchner for his 16-year run. Eventually became the offensive coordinator, and then worked for Coach Laycock up at William Mary for a couple of years after that.
Oh, what's it like working for Coach Laycock, a legend?
Yeah, it was as hard as people said it was, but also as I'd say rewarding as a coach. I grew a lot in those 2 years, and learned a lot of the things I've tried to institute as a head coach, as far as just running a program. And you sat back and watched him and the why of what he was doing. And, as a head coach now, it makes a ton of sense. I mean,
39 years as the head man at William and Mary, and the changes and the things that he saw and the evolution of the sport.
Crazy.
Man.
Yeah, I met him a few times, man. Jimmy's a funny guy, legend, nothing but gracious with us. We got to get him on. We got to make him a special show too, actually.
Laycock would be fantastic.
Yeah, he'd be great.
He would be hilarious.
Paul, I think Coach Crowley...
Got to get him off the golf course.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. For one, your story is you kind of found your home, and you've kind of been there, right? Only 2 years of William & Mary, and you've just been at CNU. I mean, you're still a relatively young coach, obviously, but like, Talk about, because in coaching, I mean, I was looking up James Franklin bio the other day, and for like 8 years in a row, he was in a different town, a different university, and you've like remained loyal to this. Why not try and venture out and do different things?
A couple of different reasons I'd say. That's a pretty good question. Maybe a personality quirk. There's a lot of coaches, and not to say it in a negative way, but they're always thinking about the next job. They're planning things out, and I've always been a pretty competitive person, so I have a hard time not focusing on the task at hand. And then, I think if you do a good enough job at the task at hand, success will find you, and other opportunities will find you. So probably, if I was giving advice to my younger self, would have told myself to, go look at other places, look at other jobs. But at the same time, CNU's such a good place that it attracted a lot of really good coaching talent. So even though I was there for 9 years, we had different offensive coordinators, different defensive coordinator guys with Division I experience, national championship experience. So you're kind of a sponge, and you soak that stuff up. It makes you a better coach.
Yeah. Interesting.
A lot of pressure to live up to at CNU. Kyle's made some great hires throughout the athletic department, and there's a lot of success and a lot of winning. And I know when you took over the program, they'd kind of fallen on hard times, but you'd be able to bring them back. I mean, what's the kind of the pressure of living up to that winning standard at CNU?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a pressure. You want to hold the same standard that the other sports have, but it's also a good thing, I think. Success breeds success. So, when you see like our field hockey team just made it to the Final Four, obviously the men's basketball winning a national championship, women's soccer, women's softball, it just set the standards higher for the whole school. So obviously football is a little bit different in how you have to recruit and do a lot of different things. But typically if you're successful in one sport, as an athletics department, you have an opportunity to be successful in a lot of them.
Coach, this is going to sound like a dumb question. Going back to my high school days, I got recruited by one D3 back home. I'm from Oregon, Linfield. I have no idea if you ever crossed paths with them, we couldn't get scholarships back then. What is the Division III recruiting tactic? Not recruiting tactic, but like, are kids on scholarships? Is it half scholarships? Just explain.
Yeah, so for us, it's non-scholarship. Okay. The only scholarships they typically get are going to be academic based, which a lot of our kids are very high achieving students, so they get money that way as well. The big advantage for us is we are a state school, so we cost the same as an Old Dominion, cost the same as a Norfolk State. So we're affordable, especially for all the local military families that have GI Bill benefits and all that stuff. But it's essentially we're recruiting against the 1AAs for the most part, and if they decide to give the kids money or give them a scholarship, we usually lose out. Maybe we get them bounced back as a transfer, but we just sell, all the stuff I talked to you guys about earlier as far as our game day atmosphere, the education you can get at CNU, which we haven't talked a lot about, but that being one of the best in the state. You just sell all that stuff, get them to campus, and usually good things happen in the recruiting process.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it had changed it all these years later or anything. So
is NIL a thing at this level?
To a very small margin, yeah. We've had some Bojangles deals.
Yeah, nice. Heck yeah.
$50 gift card type stuff. Nothing that's changing lives or anything.
You eat for 3 nights and $50 in college.
But 10 years ago, that would have gotten you a lifetime ban.
No question. And now, it was our quarterback at the time, Matt Zerski, got it, and then he demanded the O-line get the gift cards too. So that's been a perk for our O-line for a while now.
Who's the most followed social media guy on the team? Do you have like a social media TikTok type who just like has like 50,000, 100,000 followers or anything?
Our social media coordinator for the program, Tim Smith, if you guys ever like go on Twitter, go on any of that stuff, he's going to be doing it professionally. He's already hired to work for the Professional Lacrosse League when he's done, but he's been doing all of our stuff for 4 years. So at Tim Smith Visuals, he's like a pro doing it already at our level. So that's been great for us recruiting, across the board.
You guys do a good job of putting out information and content. I do appreciate that. I've looked at it before.
CNU's just got a tight operation, man.
Yeah, really good.
Everything about it.
So I went to a Division II school. I went to Edinboro. I've always wondered what the recruiting was like between the Division II and Division III schools. Do Division III schools have a bit of an advantage over Division II schools, or is it the other way around?
My wife actually got her master's from Edinboro. So with winners at Edinboro. But no, they have the advantage in that they can offer money legally. So it's recruiting against the money, but like I said, there are some advantages to CNU that compared to a lot of, especially the D2s, more in the state of Virginia, we offer a really, really good education. For a lot of guys, especially local, we're closer to home. And then, compare the atmosphere at a CNU game to most D2 places, it's going to be better. So you sell them on, maybe they're going to be paying a little bit more than they would at a D2 school, but, you also do get what you pay for, both educationally and experience-wise.
Got it.
Makes sense.
Coach, can we're going to take a quick commercial break here real quick, and then so pause, and we're going to come right back on this Sports Wrap Overtime Special brought to you by HII. All right, we're back. It's a Sports Wrap Overtime Special. Brian Parsons, Jeff Snyder, Craig Loper, and Paul Crowley, the head coach of the CNU Captains up in Newport News. A proud program in so many ways across all sports. Really, you guys have done a great job in really a ton of sports.
Your introduction did not do him justice.
Oh, do you want me to?
He should always be introduced now as the head of the Conference Coaching Staff of the Year,
right?
Paul Crowley.
Well, because I have the latest bio on the website. That's not the new one, so I got
that one. They got to update it.
They got to update it. Well, yeah, Coach, we were kind of getting into all things D3, getting into your Lansdowne experience. Obviously, when it comes to this playoff, run, like, what's your message to the team with these guys that get? It's one shot for some of these seniors, and you got a chance to really do something special here. What's your message over the next week?
Yeah, I think it's twofold: understanding and not taking for granted, the opportunity that you have. We haven't, like I said, had a home playoff game in 20 years, so getting to do something that hasn't been done since my sophomore year in college, you want to make sure you don't look back on it and regret anything. But at the same time, I don't think you prepare any different than you prepare for other games. I think you still go in aggressive. It's been our MO all year: offensively, defensively, special teams. You go in trying to win the game, not trying not to lose it, if that makes sense. So. Want our guys to play focused but loose, and they've done a good job of that all year. So, I know regardless of what happens in the playoffs, they'll prepare the same way and be ready to go.
We always ask coaches this question, but like identity, what if someone is to watch your team, what do you hope they say the identity of your group is? I mean, in all three phases.
Yeah, what we came in saying we wanted to be, that was something I wanted to define for our guys, because I'd always felt like whenever maybe I didn't have a successful position group, or we had a bad year on offense or whatever it is, it was a lack of identity that it came back to. So I wanted to define those things for our guys so they knew them during the hard times. And right when I came in, it was disciplined, smart, tough, and together. So we tried to do those little things right. We've been top 10 in the country in turnover margin most of my years here. So we put a big emphasis on turnovers. We get smart kids at CNU and guys that love football, so we're able to probably do a little bit more schematically, than a lot of other places. So we feel like we do a lot of cool things there. We get really, really tough kids, and then the best teams I've ever been a part of, dating back to Lansdowne, CNU, whatever. The guys just really, really like being around each other, and every day of coming to work was fun. So we try to foster that environment in the off season, and I know this group of seniors in particular really love coming to work together every day.
Looking at this video, Coach, man, you've got a pretty big offensive line there in the trenches there. How does that stack up to the rest of the league?
I put us up against guys at most levels. We've been fortunate. I'll shout out a couple local guys, but our right tackle, Kellen Roberts, he's probably 6'5", 290. A kid we got because he had Achilles injury out of high school. He should probably be playing Division, 1 AA somewhere. Our left guard, Andrew Belford, came from Morehead State, where he was playing. He was an Atlantic Shores kid that wanted to get closer to home. It was 10 hours away, so his parents couldn't watch him play. So he's a, Division 1 AA transfer. Right tackle was a kid that thought he had a D2 scholarship, and it fell through late. And he's from up in Stephen City, Sharando High School. He's 6'3", 300. So I mean, we're as big as a lot of D2s, if not some of the smaller 1 AAs on the fronts, and that's been big to our successes. I was always told it's hard to have a bad football team if you're good on both lines of scrimmage, and that's probably where we've made our most progress over these 4 years. You
talked about schematics, Coach, and just how you're able to maybe dial it up and do some different things. How much has the game changed since your CNU days compared to what guys are doing now, or is it a lot of the ways it's the same? How much has it changed, or maybe how much has it not?
It's cyclical, I think. A lot of the stuff maybe that was more in vogue back when I played. It's coming back into it. So, 10 years ago, it was spread offense in Oregon and run as many plays as you can possibly run. And teams are, getting back away from that now. Defenses start to figure it out, but defenses get smaller. So I think the best teams offensively, it's generally what I've been on that side of the ball is you find ways to get the ball to your best players, and whether that's having one tight end on the field or three tight ends on the field, you find the way to get those players the ball, especially in key situations. So like for us, we've become a three tight end offense, 13 personnel to actually throw the ball, which wasn't our expectation going into the year, but we've just gotten stellar tight end play. So I think it's in a lot of ways football is the same. It's blocking and tackling, and if you can run the football, usually that's going to set you up for success.
That 13 personnel, man. I'm sure you're watching that Sean McVay all 22 stuff. That's what he's doing for the Rams. He's crazy. They talk about that all the time whenever the Rams play. It's like a lot, like 80%, like 13 personnel.
Yeah, no, it's and you're always a product of what you've been around, right? So we alluded to it earlier, but I played with Percy, and the thing I think that made him special was he a running back? Was he a receiver? I don't know. He's just a guy you can line up at a bunch of different spots. So to me, the best offenses have positionless guys, whether it be running backs, tight ends, receivers that can do a lot of different things. So us having, tight ends that can do receiver stuff, gunner, running back can do receiver stuff. It allows you just a multiplicity that you want to have at this level. So I think that's, those Sean McVay offenses, all those offenses are looking for that.
I was thinking, did Percy and Chris Beatty, did they invent the Wildcat?
I don't know if they invented it, but it definitely was successful for us. That was my senior year. We started using just direct snapping to him, and I think
it wasn't
what
called.
Year?
It wasn't called the Wildcat.
Because I can tell you, what year? What year was your senior year?
02, 03?
That would have been 04. We won that state championship. Yeah,
that's pretty because the Dolphins didn't debut it against the Patriots until I think 05 or 06. If we look up that game, type in the Wildcat page, type in Miami Dolphins Wildcat game, Jeff.
It wasn't called when Lansdowne did it. I mean, maybe did you guys call it the Wildcat? We just referred to it as, hey, Percy's
direct snap
lining up at quarterback,
Yeah, I don't know how revolutionary it is, like get your best player the ball. I'm sure in the 60s, it was the same thing. It was a single wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely the Dolphins, the true Wildcat package. It was Ronnie Brown and all those.
You're right. That's why I was curious.
September 21st, 2008 was the Wildcat game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was earlier.
I thought it was
Coach,
too.
that's a big deal. Because once that happened, it was like a 3-year run where it became a big, like everyone was doing it. So for you guys to do it 6 years earlier is pretty impressive.
Chris Beatty, the innovator of put the ball in the best player on the field's hands, right?
Right. Yeah. I just saw
What a concept.
I just saw a podcast. Actually, literally, Urban Meyer was talking about Percy was either USC or Florida and recruiting against Pete Carroll and all that stuff. It was good stuff.
So 20 years ago, that was 20 years ago if you were in high school. But 25 years ago this year, they honored the team and Matt Kelchner and all of that. With Paul Tribble was there. He was so instrumental, as was the late C.J. Woolham. That he was so important in getting football at CNU, and to have those guys and all those players come back and to see Coach Kelchner, what was that like to see that go down?
Yeah, that was really, really cool. I think over like 130 guys that have played over the years came back for that game, and it was recognizing those guys because it was a long time ago they did it, but 2001 to 2004 they won those 4 conference championships in a row to start football. And went to the NCAA playoffs, and nobody in the history of college football at any level had done that then or has done it since. So they definitely set a standard of success. So recognizing what those guys did and what Coach Kelchner did, winning a ton of championships during his 16 years was really important. And I think at the end of the day, you coach a really long time, and I bring this up with guys during COVID. What I missed most as a coach during that year in COVID wasn't the X's and the O's. It wasn't the games. It was the camaraderie, the little stuff you get in the locker room, all that stuff. So, as you become older in life, you really search for those opportunities to be 21 and just be around the fellas again. And I'm looking at that, clips now, but yeah, you want to relive the glory days. So giving those guys an opportunity to do that was pretty cool for us.
How impressive. First 4 years of the program.
They just
conference championships.
It's just, they were
How's that?
immediately.
You just don't hear about. That doesn't happen. Like you said, it hasn't happened since.
But Coach Kelchner, though, had been around at, where was he? Was he at William & Mary, I believe? So he kind of knew, he had a grasp on the area, at least as far as recruiting. So he was probably able to find some guys.
Here, it just doesn't happen.
No, that was amazing. It was amazing when they got it and the success right out of the gates.
That's crazy. Yeah, we pulled some of the old 25 years.
And now the first home playoff game
that's hard
in
to believe
20
too.
years. Wow.
Yeah, so Coach, just to clarify here, what does it take to host a home playoff game? Like you got to win the conference or you got to have a certain power rankings? How does that work?
Yeah, nowadays they go by MPI, the NCAA power ranking stuff.
Okay.
So they've actually expanded the field to 40. Back in the day, it was only 32. So there really weren't at large for a very long time. It was just the conference champions won, and then you got seeded based off all that. So Coach Kelson used to play a really, really daunting out of conference schedule. So we would have played teams, that were really good, but we were 8-2 or whatever. So we got sent to the road a lot back in the day. Now they just do it off this, ranking system, and there's more at-large bids. So like Salisbury in our conference got one of the at-large bids. But that's why we got the bye week. That's why we got the home. We got the number 3 overall seed.
Okay, number 3 out of 40.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of times, I mean, we're even unclear how these things go down, and there's like what's exactly happening, how does this work? So yeah, very interesting. Well, it's going to be an exciting week in terms of the bye week. Can you talk about some of the team continuity stuff? Like you're a coach, it's not only about the X's O's. You talk about the experience. Like, are you big into off the field? How you guys are spending time? Like, is there anything you did in the bye week that was special? Guys go out for movies. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, the position groups do all that stuff. They have, our quarterback and O-line go out for dinner every Friday. But to me, that stuff's really fostered in the off season. So we do a lot with, we do a draft, and everybody's got their own team, and we chart different things, different metrics during the off season. During, the winter conditioning is where teams are made, when you're up at 6 a.m. every day and you're around your same guys. And then training camp's really important. It's not what it once was, back when we played, when it was long and arduous, but that is the time we get 135 players together and, start to build those bonds. So we give them a lot of time just to do their own thing and let the seniors let it kind of form naturally, if that makes sense. And then you hope those bonds that are built, continue throughout the season.
Let me just say this, as a former walk-on at Oregon coach, I'm assuming your guys, when you talk about this offseason, and they're not on scholarship, I'm assuming these guys are working like part-time jobs, right? How much does it say about these guys to be working out with you at 6 a.m. and then going to class and then probably working a job at night? Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, our team captain's a kid named Mossy Bruning from Western Branch, who's got an extra year of eligibility, but he's a senior right now. And yeah, he works a job, during the off season. He's up all night. Then he comes to work out at 6 a.m. So I say all that to say, the guys you want to recruit at this level, but really at any level of football, if you find guys that really love the game and love the preparation, and are doing it for the right reasons, you're going to have a successful team. If you're, just recruiting guys that have always been good at football and only play because they've been good at it. When you get in big games or key moments or key situations, you're probably not going to have the identity you want.
How prevalent is the transfer portal? How prevalent has it become at the D3 level?
Not as much as, honestly, I would have expected when all this got announced. Both incoming and, losing guys. We really haven't lost many guys to the portal, and I think that speaks to, the experience you get at CNU. When you got nice stuff, you got a chance to get a good education. It's going to be hard to leave. And for us, it's been, kids that we remember recruiting out of high school that we had good relationships with, that we know they're the right kind of people, that go into the portal and decide, hey, maybe I want to get the ability to play closer to home. So I talked about Belford and Connor Berry, but, before he got hurt, Jordan Lennon, one of our running backs, he was the starter at Norfolk State, but just wanted a different college experience, and we were able to get him to CNU. So for us, it's been an advantage in finding the right kids, especially the right Virginia kids.
And how does it work? Do you have certain coaches that have certain areas? Like, does somebody have Suffolk, and does somebody have Chesapeake, and does somebody have the Peninsula, or is it just you do it all the areas in the 757?
No, we break it by different areas. And again, that was a big part of when I hired the coaches. And I talked to Coach Laycock about this when I was looking to hire coaches, but I wanted guys that would stay in one place for, a while. Obviously, you develop the same kids over 4 years with the same coaches, but I think the underrated part of that is the recruiting, part, where we've had Coach Wicklund, our defensive coordinator in Northern Virginia, this whole time. Craig Smith, our offensive coordinator, has been in Richmond. I've been able to recruit the south side of Hampton Roads. Coach Alex Smith, our recruiting coordinator, has done Fredericksburg and Roanoke. So you get the same coaches in the same areas. You build rapport with the high school coaches, and they trust you and know you're doing it the right way. So if it's close on a kid and, they need to be steered in a certain direction, they're obviously going to send it to the people they like and the people they trust. So we've been able to forge those relationships. So, hey, I think we get the cream of the crop of the Kings Fort kid or of the Morey kid. Or of the Kempsville kid. And, that's instrumental in having a good football team.
Yeah, love that. We're excited about the high school playoffs, Coach. We're doing this on a Friday, and I'm going to be at Oscar Smith tonight, and I'm going to Kings Fork. Love Anthony Joffrion and those guys out there. So high school, it's good to, because a lot of times the headlines of college football and what we do in the media is just, it's all so NIL focused. It's so money focused. This kid is committed to 8 places in 2 weeks, and they commit and they decommit. So to hear this is like a grassroots level thing where you're authentic in the way you recruit these kids, and you need it to mean something to them. And for you to not lose too many guys in the portal, I think is very refreshing in this day and age of like what we do. It's all about this kid's getting paid $1 million to go here. So it's good to hear that there's still some genuine kids out there, you know?
Yeah, no. And people ask me, hey, well, what's your, are you looking at other jobs or blah, blah, blah. And like, I tell them all the time, I don't know that I'd want to coach in Division I again. To have to deal with all the stuff those coaches have to deal with, to not be able to really build relationships over 4 years and see kids grow and develop. Like, I get that the money would be the money, but there's something very fulfilling that we get at this level of really getting to know the kids and change lives. And, we talked about the alumni stuff, but like, I'll go into Green Run High School and see the awe of a kid I recruited at Lake Taylor 10 years ago and find out, hey, he's getting married, and CNU was the best thing that ever happened to him. So, when I first got into coaching, that was the last thing on my mind. It was being around football and X's and O's and all that stuff. But I think the longer I've done it, the more I've found that that's the best part of what we do.
Yeah. What advice do you have on a player on your team that may want to follow in your footsteps and get into the coaching game? What advice would you give them in this current landscape?
Yeah, I think the running joke among coaches is tell them not to. No, I tell them if you can sacrifice a lot of things in your younger life, because you'll be a young coach at 22 and 23 and maybe not making much money and, not getting to experience some of the positives that all your friends are doing where they're, making $80,000 a year early on. But at the end of the day, you'll be doing something you love. So, get into it as early as you can, learn everything you possibly can. And that's been a cool part now, 4 years as a head coach is, some of the assistants I've had are, at Johns Hopkins as a defensive coordinator, or a couple guys have gone, they're GAs at the University of Delaware. So having, a group of guys that played for you that are coaches at other places is really rewarding. You
mentioned Chris Beatty. Is there any other coaches, college or NFL that you really look at, or you have a relationship that you forge? Anybody that you kind of see as I don't want to say a role model, but someone you look at and you really respect the way they do it?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about Coach Kelchner and Laycock. I learned a lot from those guys. But I would say, Justin Wood, who I played with at CNU, is the defensive coordinator, assistant head coach at Richmond now. He's been great for me in this business. And some of those guys I worked with at William & Mary are really good coaches. I'll say like Mario Acatelli, who's at Utah State now, one of the smartest coaches I've been around. So, if I have a question, he's somebody I definitely rely on.
What goes through your mind when you see what Penn State did to James Franklin? He was in the national semifinal last year. He was ranked third in the country this year. Went double overtime against Oregon, and they fire him during the season. I mean, what goes through your mind when you see a successful guy like that, one of the best coaches in America, gets to let go like that?
I think it tells you it's a business, and it's a results-driven business, I guess. The guy that was our special teams coordinator when I played at CNU is a special teams coordinator at Penn State now. He was actually the head coach at Edinburgh too for a little bit there.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Justin Lustig, but
yeah.
But it's, you can become a victim of your own success, right? So Penn State, what they were before he got there was something completely different from what they were, at the end of his tenure. But they were one in the country or whatever it was going into the year. So sometimes I think people aren't appreciative enough of sustained success, which is really, really hard to do.
Yeah. They may come to regret that one day, and I think it's Virginia Tech's gain.
Virginia Tech's gain for sure. It is hard to believe. I mean, a couple of losses after the Oregon game, it's like 11 years just feel like down the drain because of some tough losses.
Well, you heard how he was like, we spent all that time at that other place during his Virginia Tech.
Did he? No, he was saying Penn State though. He referred to Penn State. He did. Some coaches don't. He did. He was proud of his time there.
Okay.
So how do you watch this Washington and Jefferson Susquehanna game? How are you going to watch that?
I'll watch it. I'm trying to spend. I got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I'm definitely trying to get as much time. You probably might be hear them yelling upstairs, but trying to get as much time in with them as I can during this bye week, because obviously you miss a lot in the season. But I'll have it on my phone. I'll be watching. We already played Susquehanna, so the preparation there, we've already been getting ready for a little bit. So really just watch, see, look at the big picture stuff of it, and then once we get the actual all 22, really start to break down.
I had a friend of mine who was a coach on the Eagles for a while, and he was like an advanced scout. Like kind of he would lay out the tendencies. Are you on that level where like guys have charted out like right hash, left hash, high red zone? Like, is it that level advanced, or are you still just kind of wait for this game to be played and then kind of get on it?
waiting for this game to be played for the most part. I think what you get the benefit of is really looking at your own stuff. You always try to self scout, but
Right.
taking a more, taking a breath or taking I described it to our coaches as let's have a sober evaluation of who and what we are. And when you get into the grind of the season, you lose sight of, hey, maybe this changed over time and we didn't intend to be this on offense or defense. So being able to look back at those things, see how other teams might see us and make adjustments, I think is the biggest advantage of then getting into the nitty gritty of your opponent once you actually have the opponent.
Well, we got about 8 more minutes here, Coach, with you. You mentioned a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, man. We always hear about the toll that coaching can take on families and stuff, but talk about how you prioritize, your wife and your 2 kids and the team of 100+ guys. Like, it can be a lot. How do you compartmentalize all that time?
Yeah, I think you try to shut one off when you're with the other to the best of your ability. Obviously, football is such a nonstop deal that, it's hard to focus on anything else when you're doing it. But, when I get home, when it's family time, I try to, be as present as I can for the 2 kids. And then my wife, Taylor, does a phenomenal job of, dealing with the brunt of it during football season. Luckily it's not 20 years ago anymore in coaching where, we used to stay in the office and sleep in the office just to say we were. I think a lot of your best ideas come when you're at your freshest. So, I've made a concerted effort not to grind our coaches and, work them just to work them, but make sure when we are working, we're getting meaningful work, and then we have time to be with our families.
You said off camera, you met your wife in Williamsburg at your time at William and Mary, or is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
Met her. We live up in Toano. She's a speech pathologist, so she does like home health and those kind of things.
Awesome. Awesome.
And she got her master's from Edinburgh.
Yeah, look at that.
There we
Look at
go. She's a Penn State grad too, so she
Oh, wow.
Penn State. So when you guys were bringing up the Franklin stuff, I was like, I know pretty well how a lot of the Penn State
Fans feel
about Franklin, because I've heard a lot of it.
We had like 3 Penn State grads here in the office. Last year? They're all gone. Fundero, Marielena, and someone else. Michelle. Oh, Michelle went to Penn State too.
Yeah.
But they haven't won a national title since 1986. People act like it was yesterday. It was a long time ago.
Trying to get back.
Well, what's your go-to lunch spot around campus?
Oh, subway station across the street.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
They've been around forever. Tom Pitkins, the owner, he does a great job. That's an easy one.
When you know the owner, you know you're getting the hookup. When you mention the owner's name.
Institution has been there decades upon decades upon decades.
Right.
For sure.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I have the rankings up. You guys are ranked 3rd. Or how do you is Wartburg and Mount Union? Now, Mount Union is a powerhouse in Division III. What has made them so good for so long, and how do you guys, if you guys get there, how are you guys going to be able to punch them in the mouth and maybe take one from them?
Yeah, we played at Mount Union when I was an assistant years and years ago, and they were that was Cecil Shorts and some of those guys back then when they had some of those NFL players, and they operate on a really big roster, around 200 kids. So it's kind of like a factory, and they play a JV schedule and that whole deal. They gave really, really good financial aid packages. I'll put it at that. I'm not going to say that.
Love that.
There's getting creative and there's cheating, but that's anywhere you are, you got to have creative financial aid packages to be successul. So they've been really, really good. They've actually, come back down to earth, I'd argue, a little bit these last couple of years. It's really been North Central out of Illinois.
Yeah.
That's kind of been the juggernaut the last couple of years. So they didn't get the 1 overall seed just because of the rankings.
Yeah, they're ranked 4th.
Games.
Okay.
How we haven't talked about your defense. How's the D looking?
Good. We just had 4 guys named first team all conference on defense, so we've had some success there as well. You see Jeter, one of those King Forks kids, the senior for us, playing awesome at corner, and you guys brought up Noah Martin as safety. So, we're excited.
Here's one of those plays Noah made. Look at that play.
Yeah.
That's just a
We're
great
excited
play.
to the last 2 games we played, Salisbury was triple option, and then we went up to the College of New Jersey, was running a variation on triple option too. So I think we'll be excited to get back to, kind of conventional football a little bit.
The challenges of the triple option, what are they?
Preparation in a short week in particular, right? Like, how do you simulate that in a week of practice? You have to get your scouts, really, really prepared, because it's different than what they're used to doing. And then, not what it used to be, but they still cut block at a different level, a different pace than some of the other schools. So you got to prepare for that side of it. And then, you get less possessions in a game when you're playing a triple team generally. So there's a bunch of different, particularly defensive preparations you got to do. And, we devote time to it in the off season just because Salisbury is our, chief rival. our biggest game in our conference. So, if that's 1/10 of your season, and in our case, a fifth of our season, you better spend some time on it.
Random here, Coach, but you mentioned the triple option. You ever seen the Nick Saban rant on the Georgia Southern triple option? It's highly recommend if you go to YouTube. Oh man, you're missing out. Coaching rants are some of our favorite things to look up in the office on a daily basis. And
is he so against it, or
yeah. Alabama played Georgia Southern in Tuscaloosa in like 2012, and Georgia Southern ran for like 300 yards. And like Saban just goes off on the media afterwards. Like this was years later. And he's like, someone asked him a question like, oh, because they were playing like Georgia Southern again. And he's like, how do you guys know the young guys are going to play? Y'all weren't here for the Georgia Southern game, man. He got everybody on that played for that field. And we couldn't get a look all week. And they ran through us like S through a tin horn. And it was just hilarious. So if you want to ever look up some coaching rants, check out the Nick Saban on the triple option.
Yeah, I know that triple option could be a thorn in the side of a lot of coaches and players.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. Well, Coach, hey, we're going to wrap this up, man. I appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Best of luck in the playoffs. And
next Saturday.
Yeah.
Next Saturday at noon.
So we're going to
Town Bank Stadium.
Yeah. Anybody for your fan base or wants to check this out, they get a whole week to check it out. We're going to post it tomorrow, our Saturday, and you guys play the next Saturday after that. So, Coach, thanks for taking the time, man. Good to get to know you and really, really enjoy your program up there. You guys do a great job of building a great atmosphere, and we appreciate the time.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on and all the support you guys have given us, as well as the local community. It's been instrumental to our success.
All right, Paul Crowley, head man at Christopher Newport. Thank you, Coach.
Coach of the year.
Get back to those kids and that wife. Enjoy the bye week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank
Coach.
you.
All right, man. We're pulling for those guys.
We are.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are. Yeah, got a couple minutes here. Good to talk to him, man. Good to hear about the Percy stuff and just
Chris Beatty got him into coaching.
Yeah, man.
How about that?
Sound like he's
We
really
learned
good
that.
inspiration for him, and just to be so loyal to that community is just awesome. And he has the experience. He was a position coach and then a coordinator and all that type of stuff. And I like how he talked about balances and the X's and O's, but then just like coaching the kids and creating a continuity between the teams.
I learned a lot about Division III football today.
Yeah, me too, man. That's why it was important to have him on too. Like I really didn't know if guys got scholarships anymore because
He
they haven't.
can't be 40.
No, I'm 34. He graduated 05. He's 38.
30. You're right. Yeah. I
he's
mean,
38, yeah.
he's got 30 years of coaching ahead of him here.
Yeah, love that.
And who knows where he's going to, where the road's going to take him.
Yeah, you never know, man. I mean, he's seen it. He's probably seen a lot of guys come and go, but he's doing a great job.
What if he would end up at William and Mary one day when Mike London retires?
Who knows? He
He
go
lives in
back to
Williamsburg.
William
You're
Mary.
right. I mean, it's
You never know.
he's a young guy, and there's going to be opportunities for him down the
Right.
line, especially if the success continues to come. I mean, a perfect season here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 10-0, rolling. I really hope they do well in the playoffs. Got it. 20 years. It's hard to believe that.
Man.
All the success they've had, it's hard to believe they haven't hosted a playoff game in 20 years.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty
It's
awesome.
It's just
awesome
crazy
day.
to think that.
I was very impressed with the student atmosphere in those videos.
Right.
The students seem to care about this football
They
team.
they rushed the field when they won the division and won the conference.
That's amazing. That would have never happened.
Right. It's
they
very
get
cool.
the painted up, and
Yeah,
they're
awesome.
they're having it's a real atmosphere.
It is.
Yeah. And tailgating Division III was.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Always been impressed
Those
with
games
it.
are awesome.
I'm gonna have to get up there for one
Yeah.
of these.
Go to the playoff game next
Yeah,
Saturday.
good.
All right. This has been a Sports Wrap Overtime Special. Hope you'd enjoy it. For Brian Parsons, Jeff Snyder, I'm Craig Loper. We do these twice a month. Be sure to check them all out on Wavy Plus. And again, we are brought to you by HII. Have a good one, everyone.